Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Peyton's Playbook. I'm Peyton Kraft, and we talk a lot about sports on this podcast. We talk football, we talk basketball, hockey, but we definitely talk about the Buffs. And the Buffs have a major game this Saturday. It's a late 8:15 p.m. kickoff on primetime TV on ESPN. So this is a must-watch game, but it's a must-win for the Buffs. The Buffs are right now sitting at 4-1, 2-0 in the Big 12. And this is a game that needs to be another statement game. Obviously, you had Baylor, then you had UCF. Both those games, CU showed that they belong in the Big 12 top two conversation. But a win against Kansas State will definitely solidify that CU belongs in that conversation. So on this episode, I'm going to just be talking to you about keys of the game, what I need to see from the Buffs offense and defense in order for them to pull off another upset win at home. And even though this game is being played in Folsom at Boulder, the Buffs are 4-point underdogs. So Kansas State is favored in this game to win. But I'm going to be talking to you about some key points and some key things that I need to see for the Buffs to pull off another late night win at home. So let's get right into it. All right, so before we get into this week's matchup, let's just go back a little and talk about how CU has gotten to the point of being 2-0 in the Big 12 and 4-1. They had that loss against Nebraska, and after Nebraska, everyone was kind of writing CU off. They were like, this is going to be another team that's just fighting to get a spot in a bowl game. But since that Nebraska loss, CU has looked like a completely different team. They played Colorado State. That was a Rocky Mountain showdown, in-state rival. They won that game 28-9, and then it kicked off Big 12 play. So they played Baylor at home, and since the Shedeur Sanders Hail Mary pass to take that game into overtime, which CU won 38-31, is when you kind of saw a flip of the switch. You saw the script of you were going to write off CU to people starting to talk about CU, starting to talk about Travis Hunter winning the Heisman. And then the Buffs head to Florida, and they were 14-point underdogs heading into that game. And this was, I believe, Coach Prime's and the CU Buffs statement game. They won that game 48-21 after being a 14-point underdog, making the Buffs 2-0 in the Big 12. So this is another major matchup that the Buffs are looking to pull off another upset and make, again, a statement that Travis Hunter should be a Heisman winner, and then a statement that they belong in that top two of the Big 12. Right now, BYU is taking that top spot, but number two is still up for grabs. So Kansas State, they also had a great game in week 5. They knocked off number 20 Oklahoma State 42-20 after falling in week 4 to BYU. So both teams had some great wins in week 5. They are both coming off a bye, which if you were a college football fan, you were excited they weren't playing last week because it was a week of upsets, to say the least. So it's good. Both teams coming off that bye. They should be well rested. Shiloh Sanders for the Buffs should be back in action against Kansas State on Saturday. So we're going to have to see that. But this is a big game for both teams, a big game in the Big 12. And again, it's on primetime TV and 8:15 p.m. kickoff. So, a lot of people are going to be watching this game. Kansas State, though, we have to talk about kind of what they're looking like, right? So the CU Buffs running back, if you don't remember the name, Dylan Edwards, he was a freshman running back for the Buffs last year. He now plays for Kansas State. So it is his return to Folsom Field. And it's going to be the running game that Kansas State can stop CU. It's going to be the way Kansas State is going to win this game. But that was the way that UCF was supposed to win, right? UCF had this dominating running game, and that's kind of like Kansas State. They run the ball well. So if CU can play a game like they did against UCF, stop the run, I think we're going to see another upset in Folsom. I think the fans are excited. I heard that the CU student section tickets sold out within 10 minutes. So people are excited about this game. But there's a lot about Kansas State that we're kind of going to talk about that we need to watch for, and the CU Buffs defense specifically is going to need to stop. Obviously, I said Dylan Edwards is returning to Folsom. He is averaging this year 6.9 yards a carry. He's had 2 touchdowns, 201 total yards in running. So he's been dominant for Kansas State, but just the running backs in general can be a problem for CU. You have DJ Giddens. He's a great running back for Kansas State. And then you have their quarterback. You have the quarterback, Avery Johnson, and his ability to run, kind of like UCF. They are a running dominated team. And if the Buffs can figure out what they did against UCF to stop the run game, they have a shot at winning. Kansas State is averaging 252 rush yards a game compared to 180 in the air. So again, a key point to me at first, the defense has to come out and be able to stop that run game. And we've kind of seen it throughout, like in the second half for the Buffs. Buffs are definitely a second half defense team. But I think in this matchup, you're going to need to see that defense step up more in the first half so Kansas State doesn't get up by a lot. And then you have quarterback Avery Johnson for Kansas State. He seems to have found his game, especially against that 42-20 win over Oklahoma State. So they're coming off a major win. They're coming off being well rested. It's a pretty even matchup in terms of what both teams can do. Both teams have the ability to win this game. It's going to be purely, I feel like it's going to be defense dominated. We're going to have to see Travis Hunter step up on the defense. Obviously, he is in that Heisman contention, but this is going to be, I think, a game for him to really show that he belongs in that Heisman top spot. Right now, you have the Miami quarterback, Cam Ward, coming off a major win. And right now, to me, he's in that #1 spot for Heisman. But this is a game that I think Travis Hunter can really prove a point. So then you kind of go into what happened against Kansas State, right? Kansas State is coming off that major win against Oklahoma State. They lost to BYU, and BYU is sitting at that #1 spot. So both teams are sitting at 4-1. So it's a chance for these teams to get to that 5-1, kind of take that second spot in the Big 12. My final prediction, it's going to be a high-scoring game. The last matchup, which if you were about the history, was in 2010. And that last matchup, CU won that game 44-36. CU against Kansas State, again, last time they met was 2010, is 28-5 at home. That's their record. I have it being a high-scoring game. I mean, they won 44-36 14 years ago, but that score is kind of where I am seeing CU going. Right now, CU has hit the over in both of their Big 12 matchups. I'm going to go the over again. I have final score being, I had it being 27-25, but I think it's going to be higher. I have that game, I'm going to say 30, let's see here. Oh, it's going to be a major, it's going to be an offense-dominated game, but the team that's going to win is because of defense. That's what I'm going with. I think CU cannot stop every single rush that Kansas State has, and I don't think Kansas State can stop every single crazy pass Shedeur Sanders makes. My final score is going to be 31-28. 31-28. Buffs win at home. I think Buffs are also catching fire, but Kansas State is too. I think at home, though, the Buffs are going to win. I think they are great in last minute, kind of second half, those major plays. Travis Hunter, you have Shedeur Sanders. You just have a great wide receiver group for the Buffs that I think Kansas State is slowly not going to be able to stop. But again, Buffs have to play like they did against UCF. That is the way they are going to win this game. They have to figure out how to stop the rush. Against UCF, the defense forced 4 turnovers, 2 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles. They ran 128 yards, and the defense held UCF to 177 yards. Again, Kansas State is a rushing offense. They are averaging 252 rush yards per game. So if you can hold them to what they did against UCF, that 150, 170 mark, I think Buffs have a great shot at winning this. You have Travis Hunter against UCF had a touchdown, an interception. Sanders threw for 3 touchdowns, 290 yards. There is a chance CU can win this game, but they have to play pretty close to exactly the way they played against UCF. So that is my prediction. 31-28. Take the over. Right now, the under sits at 56.5. So I'm going to go over. Buffs have hit the over the last 2 games. So take the over, take the Buffs. Final score 31-28. Let me know in the comments below your guys' thoughts, your prediction, and what you think the Buffs need to do in order to get that upset win at home Saturday night. So thank you for joining me on another episode of Peyton's Playbook. Hit the subscribe button, share, comment down below, and I will see you next time on Peyton's Playbook. Go Buffs.